Alex Rodriguez and Michael Kay discuss their favorite moments in the Red Sox versus Yankees rivalry.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I want to welcome you back into the Locked On Red Sox podcast, and thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. I'm your host, Jake Ignaszewski, and here, as always, with my co-host, NESN's Lauren Willand. And in this episode, we have two very special guests, former MLB player and Yankee legend, I guess you could maybe call him that. Alex Rodriguez joins the show, same with Yankees play-by-play broadcaster Michael Kay. And they sort of discussed their favorite Red Sox Yankees moments throughout the rivalry. But before we get into those, I figured it would be fun for Lauren and I to discuss our favorite Arod Red Sox Yankees moments. And, for me, it's a little bit different from me to you. I feel like a lot of the best moments happened in like 2003 to 2005 when the rivalry was like a real rivalry where they kind of really hate each other. And, obviously, I've seen the videos and everything like that, but I wasn't there to really experience it. But the one, that always comes up in my mind that I think is obvious is the Jason Varitek and A-Rod fight. And I'll never forget, I have respect for A-Rod now as the broadcaster and everything like that, but as the player, anytime I watch that, like I'm just like punching with Jason Varitek. I'm like, yeah, get him.
That was a huge moment, of course, in that year. And last year we talked to Bronson Arroyo about it, who was the pitcher on the mound when all of that transpired. So that was, I mean, it's a top moment. You can see it. I don't know if you're watching on YouTube. This picture here is the push, the shove that Derek has that we have hanging up. So it's a huge moment from that season. And just hearing when Bronson broke it down for us and what A-Rod was going back and forth, and we can all read lips to an extent. Like we know what A-Rod said to Bronson Arroyo. Veritek's like, yeah, you're not talking to my guy like that. And Varitek's trying to pick up A-Rod, and it was just, that's when the rivalry was so darn good because, like you said, these teams hated each other. This was like the peak rivalry. The 2003 ALCS when Aaron Boone hit that stupid walk-off home run against stupid Tim Wakefield and stupid Game 7. And then you had, 2004, and this is all happening now. And it just like, that's when rivalries in baseball were so intense and so fun. And I remember I was 14 or 15. I was 14 when that happened. And I remember watching it with my grandma and just being like, this is so awesome. Like it was just, she was clapping at the TV. She was saying, go get out of here, A-Rod. And it was an exciting time to be a Red Sox fan. It was new or old, or, my grandmother was 70 at the time, and just so much fun and so many memories from that season. And I mean, it's everywhere. You see it. It's a book cover. It's always in those mall kiosks during Christmas time for the gifts. You go to the Big E and it's always at one of the sports stands. It's just an iconic picture and an iconic moment in an iconic season for the Red Sox. And A-Rod was truly hated by Red Sox fans, and I think he embraced that. I think that's what also made the rivalry fun, was that the Yankees knew the Red Sox fans hated them, and the Red Sox fans, and vice versa. So the Red Sox going to Yankee Stadium expecting to get all this hate, Yankees coming to Fenway expecting to get all this hate, and they certainly did that day, that lovely, lovely day in 2004.
And, you brought up Bronson Arroyo and, the slap that was heard around the world. And, anytime I see that video, I just get so frustrated. I'm like, say bad words about A-Rod, and it's tough not to, especially when you are a Sox fan, and especially how I don't know, that's just like how he went about it. And it just like shows, I'm just trying to think of the best word to say in like an uncensored or a censored way. But it's just something that you anytime you watch it, it just continues to fuel the anger that Red Sox fans have against A-Rod.
It does, and especially because he was like, "Oh, that's just how I run." Like, no, you
Oh
don't.
yeah,
Like no, like first of all, I don't even think the most professional runners run like that. And you like, there's one camera angle that's just perfect that we watched you literally slap the ball. And I think the look on Bronson Arroyo's face too said it all. He was like, "What the hell was that?" Like, you could feel
yeah,
a
it was
slap
like
on your glove.
what are you talking about? I didn't do anything
Right.
wrong.
He was like, "I don't understand why you're going to let this guy go on first. That ball was not dropped. It was literally slapped." And it goes back to what I just said, that this is when the rivalry is so good. These teams would do anything to beat each other and beat each other up. And it was just the height of everything during that season. And Arod was always a hated player for the Red Sox. It was always like Arod versus Boston, and it was the Yankees versus Boston too, of course. But Arod was such a polarizing name, and so was Derek Jeter. But they had this such a strong team, and it was just so gratifying always beating them. And it was, gratifying when Veritek punched Arod in the face. And it's looking back, it's gratifying that Arod didn't get away with slapping the ball out, and that kind of comes back to, not to haunt him, because it wasn't the worst thing in the world that he's done, but it was just that was like peak baseball, Red Sox Yankees baseball. So good. I know you kind of remember it, but I wish you were a little older. And me, a 33-year-old, says that, but like just to get that full experience, because that was I like baseball since I was 3 years old, but that was a time where I'm like, baseball is such a fun sport. And it was just, again, peak rivalry. Rivalries are so good for sports across the board here in any professional sport. But Red Sox Yankees, it was unmatched in 2004, especially when it involved Arod trying to get under the skin of the Red Sox players.
I feel like the last time, there was really that sort of feeling of the rivalry was the 2021 wild card game. And I can't really think of
Yes.
anything else other than that, before, the 2003 to 2005 sort of stretch. And it's even crazy to even think about that Arod almost became a Red Sox. It's
Before that
crazy looking
04
back.
season.
It's crazy looking back, that Manny Ramirez was the guy who, could have been traded, and, Arod could be wearing, a Red Sox jersey. And, you probably saw this, but he did end up wearing a Red Sox jersey on Fox.
Yeah.
And it just looks so weird.
Yeah, it's like that ESPN commercial when David Ortiz puts on the Yankees hat and Wally walks by. It's like that kind of level of weird. Like it maybe if he always had his career in Boston, it obviously wouldn't look weird. But seeing Arod in a Red Sox uniform, I'm just like, what did the kids say? It gives me the ick. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah, I agree. And the one thing that I think, as the player, he had that cockiness. He had that ability to be able to get under fans' skin. I think that he enjoyed that. But I do like how now he is unbiased and he's realistic about his opinions about different teams. And I think he does a great job, even when it's David Ortiz and him joking back and forth with each other. And even when Veritek and him spoke as well, he just did it with a grain of salt. He wasn't cocky about it, or he didn't have an ego about it. And that's one of the big reasons why, at least for me, I've gained a little bit more respect for him over the last few years rather than I did during his playing days. But it was interesting, being a part of this press conference for ESPN, and this is how I was able to talk to him and really hear, somebody sort of diss the Red Sox in one of their questions, and to hear what he said and kind of call him the gold standard of an organization. Let's listen in.
Here's what I will tell you: is they have one of the most impressive, dynamic ownership group. When you think about John Henry, Tom Warner, Sam Kennedy, it does not get any better than that. They have one of the fine, young, great managers in the game in Alex Cora. And when you think about the last 2 decades, not just in baseball, but in sports, I think they are the gold standard. Because to win 4 championships, they built a lot of equity in that city and in that town. And I think I would not bet against the Red Sox. I'll say that.
I can't listen to that without like laughing and thinking that like it's a joke, that it's like a practical joke. And it's really weird to hear him say, I would never get a bet against the Red Sox, and especially to characterize them as the gold standard too.
They certainly were the gold standard during the last 20 years. Four championships over that span is definitely impressive. There's no taking that taking away from that. But you look at the players on those teams, and like that's not what they have now. And yes, that was then, and that time frame definitely, I would say, was the gold standard, because Dave Dombrowski came in and did whatever the hell he wanted to get the player he wanted, and now Chaim Bloom doesn't really do that. But it's funny to hear Arod say that, but also in a way not surprising, because he did play for so long. He played against the Red Sox for so long. They beat the Red Sox a lot. They lost to the Red Sox a lot. And there's always going to be that Red Sox-Yankees rivalry. So, but to hear him actually say it, like, yes, thank you, Arod. We know the Red Sox are the gold standard, but deep down we're like, okay, but what are they right now? Are they still? Because right now I'm like,
I hope that you are enjoying our episode with Alex Rodriguez and Michael K. But before we get back into that, I just want to take a second to talk to you about eBay Motors. So for a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head over to eBay Motors. With eBay's Guarantee Fit, you can be sure every part that you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to the My Garage and look for the green check to know that the part will fit, or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the parts are right. Guaranteed. Get the parts right fit, right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions may apply. But before we get back into it, I just want to talk to you about Built Bar. So even though March Madness is over, Built's March Madness bracket is still here. So you can go and still put your favorite bar or puff over on the website. And now's your time to make it count over at builtmarchmadness.com to vote for your favorites. For me, it's a marshmallow puff. When they sent it to my door, it was unbelievable. I ate it all throughout the week and it filled me up super easily. And it also tasted like a candy bar. And you can also go over to, like I said, builtmarchmadness.com, put in your favorite. And for Locked On Red Sox listeners, a lucky person will get picked in a drawing where lucky 50 Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built. And not only that, but one Locked On fan will win a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built's best bars or puffs delivered monthly straight to your door. You got to check out Built. Like I said, not only tastes like a candy bar, but it's good for you. High in protein, low in calories, and also carbs. So it's a great way to not only fill you up, but have something that's good for you as well. So run over to builtmarchmadness.com right now to vote for your favorite bar or puff and pick up a box while you're over there. You can vote every day, not only in April, but also you could have in March if you haven't already. So hop on in and support your pick. Now let's get back into our conversation with Arod and Michael K. No, yeah, I think especially when him and the Yankees did lose the ALCS in 2004. Bet you they couldn't have imagined or predicted whatsoever that the Red Sox would have not only won in 2004 but been able to win 3 more times after that. And it was interesting sort of to hear him sort of back them up and also defend them in a way. But you brought up Chaim Bloom. It was interesting because he also said in another answer, everybody's trying to be like the Rays.
Are they though? Because the Rays, listen, they're undefeated at the time of this recording, but it's taken them so long to get to this point. And I don't know. Are people trying to be like the Rays? I have not actually sat down and thought about it, and I'm probably not going to. But I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you look at the Padres; they're certainly not trying to be the Rays. The Dodgers aren't certainly trying to be the Rays, but I don't know. That's an interesting talking point for sure, because the Rays, it has paid off eventually, but again, that took a long time to get them to this point.
Yeah, let's listen to Arod's viewpoint real quick.
No, I'm just kidding.
Is that they try to win by being like Tampa. When you're the Boston Red Sox, New York Yankees, Dodgers, the Mets, you have to lean into your superpowers, which is the big market, the resources, Tampa be Tampa, right? Tampa's probably worth maybe $1 billion. The Yankees, I read, they're worth north of $7 billion. The way you got 7 championships was the George Steinbrenner way. You go out and you draft well. You dominate the international market because you can, with like Bernie Williams, Posada, Gary Sanchez of the world. But then you develop them really well. And then when you have an opportunity to go out and get a David Cohn or a Jimmy Key or a David Wells or Roger Clemens, you do it. But the way you win 27 championships is by, essentially being a bully. You don't have to be smart. You don't get 2 championships if you do it the smart way. You should just keep winning championships. If it's not broken, don't fix it.
How did I know he was going to bring up 27 championships? How did I know?
You had to sneak it in. But I think, the bully aspect, I mean, we're seeing it with the Dodgers and the Padres. They're bullying their way to winning free agency. Now, will it win them championships? That'll be seen.
That's the thing. Like, if you have the money to spend, which the Dodgers and Padres do, and they do spend, the Red Sox do, but they don't spend, and they have spent in the past. The Yankees, yes, we've seen them spend a ton of money. We saw the Mets in the offseason spend a ton of money. And, at the end of the day, the championship, the World Series, hoisting that trophy is the ultimate goal. That's the end goal. And it's not going to matter how much money you spent if you don't raise that World Series trophy at the end of the season. But the Rays haven't done that yet. It hasn't paid off for them yet. And maybe it will. I mean, right now, 6 games into the season, as we're recording this, cue the duck boats for Tampa Bay Rays. But that's why we play 162. So I think that people, they want to bully their way, like Arod said. They want to buy their championships, which fine. If you have the payroll, do that. But that's why baseball needs a salary floor. But I don't know. I don't necessarily agree if teams are trying to be like the Rays. I think they'd rather go out and just spend their money and kind of have that win now mentality and try to get almost instant results.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And maybe he was sliding the Red Sox a little bit too.
Of course he was.
with their approach. We've obviously heard throughout ever since 2019 when Bloom got hired. Tampa North. The Rays up north, and
yep.
I think he's fallen into that a little bit, but it sort of points to what we've talked about plenty of times. You got to be aggressive. You got to go out there and get what you want. You're the Boston Red Sox, and especially when you're that big market team, you got to kind of be that bully. And you could kind of say we haven't seen the Yankees do that in a little bit, and maybe that's why they haven't won a championship since 2009. Who knows? But it was interesting to hear Arod sort of give that type of comparison or give that viewpoint on the way that teams are sort of trying to build their teams rather than what we saw the Yankees do with all their success. But now let's get into what Michael Kay and Arod said were their favorite moments during the Red Sox and Yankees rivalry. I hope that you are enjoying our conversation with Arod and Michael Kay, but I just want to take a second to talk to you about So Rare. So this is a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace for transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 major league teams. Unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, So Rare managers truly own their fantasy experience by collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. Win or loss, you still own your cards and there's no cost to play. Plus, the more you win, the more you advance, collecting increasingly powerful cards and assessing the next level's competitions and rewards. And So Rare has recently partnered with MLB All-Stars Juan Soto and Julio Rodriguez to serve as brand ambassadors, and both will be featured in So Rare's current brand campaign and will engage with the So Rare community throughout the season at MLB events. So if you want to get involved and if you want to check out the game, you can head over to sorare.com/lockedon. That's spelled SORARE.com to draft your team of free player cards, set your lineup, and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, that's sorare.com/lockedon to start playing today. Now let's get back into our conversation with Arod and Michael Kay. And then just super quickly for both of you guys, what are your favorite moments from the Red Sox versus Yankees rivalry?
For me, Jake, it was, growing up in the Bronx, just the 70s rivalries. I mean, everybody hated each other. I mean, it was a real, true rivalry. Now, I mean, I guess the last great hatred would probably be Alex and Varitek, but And but to be honest with you, I think everybody gets along now. I mean, there's people talk behind the batting cage, but just Bill Lee and Greg Nettles and Lou Piniella and Carlton Fisk and Thurman Munson. That's kind of like what set me in motion of being a big time baseball fan, because the intensity and the emotion. Well, I'd sit in the bleachers or in the upper deck for those games as a kid. It was just unbelievable. It was off the charts. And there's still that emotion. I think it's still unbelievable for fans. I don't know if it's the same thing for players as it was then, but that's what I take away from it. Just, I mean, if every baseball game across 162 for all 30 games, or all 30 teams could be as intense as Yankees Red Sox usually are when they're both good, I'll sign up for that. It'd be great for the sport.
Yeah, and for me, it's a little bit later. I don't think, at least in my recent memory, you can really underscore how incredibly important and heightened that 2000 to 2008, specifically the Aaron Boone home run, the euphoric feeling in New York, and then us collapsing after being 3-0 the following year. Like, that up and down was wild. It transcended sports. It was painful. I lost a lot of hair and a lot of sleep over losing in 04. And it also made 09 a lot more rewarding. But yeah, I do think that era for me was, I'll never forget this. Mike, I don't know if you remember the first time in 04, and Kevin, you may have been there as well, when we went to play at Fort Myers for the very first time. And of course, I was coming off the heels of me almost being with a signed contract to be a Red Sox a few months before that. I had a buddy of mine that paid like $5,000 for spring training tickets, and he bought 2 of them. And it was just, standing room only. And it was, at least as a player, it felt really big. And it was fun to be a part of that.
Listen, Arod, it wasn't the stress of losing that series and the roller coaster of that series that cost you to lose your hair. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say.
Probably all the different scandals after his during his post playing career. But I can't believe $5,000 for a spring training game. But I guess that kind of shows the hype, I guess, that it was at that point.
It definitely does, but oh my God, if you're spending $10,000 on tickets for spring training, what do you do for work, and are you hiring? Because holy smokes.
I agree, and I think it was interesting to sort of hear their viewpoint and sort of agree with us in a way that it's changed a little bit. Not maybe in the fan aspect, there's still that hatred between fans, but in the player aspect, there's a lot more respect there than there obviously was back then.
Yeah, and we talked about this throughout this episode, that this was the height of the rivalry. This was, these two teams hated each other. The fans hated each other. And it was just so much, it was always going to be very entertaining when these two teams got together, especially after the Red Sox came back after being down 3-0. So it's fun to hear Arod talk about that and relive it, and, kind of how 04 kind of haunts him, and that's going to live rent free in his head. And I mean, I think it does for a lot of people. That was historic comeback, and it was just ridiculous. Out of all teams, it was the Red Sox to dethrone the Yankees that year. And it's fun to hear him look back on that rivalry as well, because he was such a hated person in Boston.
Yeah, and I think as well, just both of them reminiscing on it definitely must have brought up some different memories. And that was the most interesting part of talking to them, is going on that side of being a fan and hating not only Arod as a Yankee. I never really hated Michael Kay. I always respected him as a broadcaster, but then going to being able to actually speak to them and being like, wow, it's so cool to be able to pick those types of people's brains and sort of help them go back in time and hear their viewpoint on everything. But I hope you, the listeners, did enjoy hearing everything that not only Michael Kay but also Arod said about the rivalry, as well as their thoughts on the Red Sox. But I want to point it to you guys listening or watching. What was your favorite moments, not only from when Arod was on the Yankees, but just in general, the Red Sox Yankees rivalry? You can even pick some of your favorite Arod moments as well if you'd like to. But we're going to continue to be bringing great episodes just like this one. Tomorrow's episode, Bobby Delbeck is going to be on the podcast, or discussing his mindset going into his season with the Woo Sox, as well as we got lots of other fun interviews planned and great content. So if you have not yet, make sure to subscribe over on YouTube or whatever audio platform that you listen to. And we want to thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. Now make your second listen and check out Locked On Fantasy Baseball. Win your league by listening to Matt and Dom every day as they bring you the best fantasy strategies. Find Locked On Fantasy Baseball wherever you get your podcasts and over on YouTube. Also, make sure to follow Locked On Red Sox on Twitter, LO_Red Sox. Follow myself, it's at Jake Iggy, and also Lauren, it's three laws, Lauren with 4 R's. But as I mentioned, make sure to tune in to tomorrow's episode to hear our interview with Bobby Delbeck. But other than that, we're going to end this episode how we always end it. Keep the faith and let's go Sox.